Think about the last time you were truly angry. Not annoyed, not frustrated. Angry. The kind that sits in your chest and won't leave. The kind that replays the same moment over and over at 2 in the morning. The kind where you either say too much or go completely silent. Now ask yourself one question. What did you do with it? Picture a group of 30 people. That was the world. For almost all of human history, 30, maybe 40 people, moving together across open land, sleeping close enough to hear each other breathe, sharing everything: food, fire, water, children. Now imagine getting angry at someone in that group. You couldn't block them. You couldn't avoid them. You couldn't leave a conversation without walking into the same fire that night. The person who made you angry was there when you woke up. They were there at the fire. They were there the next morning, and the morning after that. In that world, unmanaged anger wasn't just a personal problem, it was a survival threat. A single fight that went too far could fracture the group. And a fractured group, in a world of predators and scarce food, was a group that might not survive the next bad month. So what did they do? The most documented answer is the simplest one. They left. Anthropologist William Ury spent years studying the San Bushmen of the Kalahari Desert, one of the oldest living cultures on Earth. What he found was not what most people expect. The most common response to serious anger wasn't confrontation. It wasn't revenge. It was walking away. When a dispute became too heated, one party would leave camp, walk to a relative's group, sometimes hours away, stay there for days, sometimes weeks. The Kung called this simply moving. And everyone in the camp understood what it meant. Not weakness, not surrender. Space. You cannot wage a long war against someone who can simply walk into the bush. The person who left would return when the heat had passed. And when they did, the dispute was usually not resolved through words. It was resolved by the quiet return of daily life. Shared meals, shared work, shared fire. Time and distance did what words could not, and this instinct is still in you. The walk you take when you need to clear your head. The drive that goes nowhere in particular. The silence before you can speak. Your ancestors didn't call it emotional regulation. They just called it moving. But walking away only solved certain kinds of anger. What about the anger that came from someone in the group behaving badly? Someone hoarding food, taking more than their share, acting like they were above everyone else. For that kind of anger, ancient humans had a different tool entirely. They made fun of them. Anthropologist Christopher Boehm spent decades studying 48 hunter-gatherer societies across the world. His landmark book, Hierarchy in the Forest, documented something extraordinary. In every egalitarian hunter-gatherer society he studied, the primary mechanism for controlling someone who was becoming too dominant, too greedy, or too aggressive was not violence. It was ridicule. If a hunter came back boasting about the size of his kill, the group would mock him. They would inspect the meat with exaggerated disappointment. They would shake their heads. They would make jokes at his expense until he was visibly humbled. Among the Kung, this practice was so formalized that researchers gave it a name: insulting the meat. No matter how impressive the kill, the hunter was expected to downplay it, and the group was expected to respond with theatrical criticism. This was not cruelty. It was social engineering. The mockery released the group's collective frustration at someone overstepping, without anyone having to confront them directly. It restored equality without violence. Boehm called this reverse dominance. When one person tries to rise above the group pushes back. Not with fists, with laughter. You still feel this. That dark satisfaction when someone powerful gets publicly humbled. A bully, a boss, a person who forgot their place. The feeling that rises in you before you can explain it. That feeling is not modern. It is ancient. It is the exact circuit your ancestors used to keep their world equal. But some anger was too serious for mockery, too serious for walking away. When a real conflict threatened to tear a group apart, the Kung had a formal process. They called it the xotla, a community meeting, open to everyone. Anyone could speak. There was no judge. There was no verdict handed down from above. Elders would listen and voice the emerging agreement of the group. William Ury described the xotla as one of the most sophisticated conflict resolution systems ever documented in a human society. Not despite its simplicity. Because of it, the goal was never to find who was right and who was wrong. The goal was to restore the relationship. Anger was not suppressed in the xotla, it was aired, sometimes loudly. The Kung understood something that modern psychology is only now beginning to put into words. Anger expressed in a witnessed social setting is far less dangerous than anger swallowed alone. You do not resolve anger by yourself. You resolve it with other people. This too is still in you. The need to be heard when you are hurt. The relief that comes not from winning, but from feeling that the other person finally understood. The reason that talking to someone, really talking, still feels like the only thing that actually helps. Nature. Not even close. Anthropologist Richard Lee studied the Kung for years and celebrated them as one of the most egalitarian peoples on Earth. Then he went back and looked at the homicide rates. Before the arrival of formal law, the Kung had more than 4 times the homicide rate of the United States in 1990, which was itself the highest in the developed world. The Inuit of mid-Arctic Canada, another people celebrated for their gentleness, had a violent mortality rate 10 times higher. This is not a contradiction. It is the full picture. Ancient humans had sophisticated systems for managing anger because they needed them. Because when those systems failed, when the anger could not be walked off or laughed away or talked through, it became something that ended lives. The skeletal record confirms it. Ancient burial sites across 10,000 years show healed skull fractures, evidence of violence that people survived, and unhealed ones, evidence of blows that no one walked away from. Anger has always had 2 faces, the one that gets managed and the one that doesn't. So here is what your anger actually is. It is a signal, ancient and precise. It tells you that something in your world has shifted, that a boundary was crossed, that something was taken, that the balance between you and someone else has gone wrong in a way that needs correcting. Your ancestors felt exactly this, around the same fires, over the same kinds of wounds, food taken, trust broken, respect withheld, and they built something to hold it. Walk first. Let time and distance do what words cannot. Use the group's laughter to restore equality when someone forgets their place. Speak it aloud, with witnesses, when it has to be said. Anger swallowed alone almost always finds a worse way out. None of those tools required a therapist. None of them required a book. They required a group, a fire. People who knew each other well enough to let the anger breathe without letting it burn the whole thing down. We still have the anger. We still have the signal. What most of us have lost are the systems that were built to receive it. And maybe that, more than anything else about the ancient world, is what disappeared when we stopped living in groups of 30, stopped sitting around fires at night, and started carrying our unresolved anger into a world that never built anything to hold it.